There's just one single cloud in the sky. That's how hot it is. I don't think we're getting any rain. Hi guys, it's your plantita from the Philippines, Melissa, who is coming to you today with a simple recipe for an aroid mix. So, if you look online, right, you look at the aroid mixes that they have, they're really general. I mean, they have a lot of things that we have as far as resources here, so it should be fairly easy for us to make aroid mixes. However, we also have a lot of things that they don't have over there. So that today is going to be something that we're going to start discussing as well. We're also going to discuss ratios because I want to say that a lot of the information that's online deals with Western climate and temperature. And here in the Philippines, obviously, we only have 2 seasons compared to the 4 seasons that they have in the US, in Europe, Canada, some parts of Mexico. But I digress. So they have a few seasons that we don't have here. We just have rainy and sunny. So a lot of the recipes that are online tend to be on the side that holds moisture better. I guess mas basa yung gusto nila ng konti compared to what we should have here, because when it rains, it pours, and it pours cats and dogs, sometimes for days. Alam niyo na yan. During rainy season, I mean, sometimes the rain does not let up for a while. Don't even get me started on typhoons, and even if you have plants outside in greenhouses, you know what I'm talking about. So what I'm doing today is we're going to try to go ahead and talk about tailoring the recipes that you find online to the Filipino climate and experience, and maybe come up with a general recipe as well for us. So the materials you're going to need today, you're going to need a plastic container, affectionately known here in the Philippines as bacha or a bucket. I prefer bacha because it's lower, less plastic to work with, easier to see, right? We're going to need a shovel to mix. I mean, we can use our hands, but that can only go so far. We need some coconut cubes. Because this is going to be a multi-recording session day, I'm going to be repotting this guy afterwards. I chose coconut cubes, which are a little bigger than the kinds that we see, the really tiny cubes. I like to use this size for plants this size because it gives a little bit more air, it gives a little bit more places for the roots to grow because of that aeration. And just because the smaller ones seem to compact easier over time, this one, it'll take a little bit more time than that. Hopefully by the next repotting of this guy, I could use bigger ones also. So that's why we're using this size coconut cubes. You can use whatever size coconut cubes are necessary for your plant. So if you've got a little, maybe a 2-leaf Mexicanum, tiny little guy, these might be a little overkill because they're so huge. You know, again, use your hands. What I would do is just simply cut them down to size. Cut them down to size that you need. Coconut cubes are easily available here in the Philippines. You can buy them, you can find them online, there are people who sell it. But also you could visit your local tendero or tendera of coconut juice. You see them on the sides of the road. They have the spent coconuts on the side. We have one here in our little town. We bring him sacks that he could fill these up with. He usually provides them back to us when they're dry, and he actually chops them up for us too, which is really nice. So we pay him instead of having him throw those away. You know, we get to recycle for our own purposes, and he gets paid for that, and there's less garbage in the trash, I guess. So win-win for everyone, right? I've got vermicast, which are worm casings, organic byproducts that come from worms. They have been proven to contain more nutrients than the organic materials that okay, let's go say this right. Vermicast has more nutrients than the organic materials that the worms ate before it became vermicast. So the earthworms process organic materials such as eggshells, fruit peels, green matter. So green matter that you have in your kitchen, that's what those guys consume. Newspapers also. And this is what comes out. It's really finely textured. It provides the extra nutrients for our plants. I like using vermicast for that reason. Here in the Philippines, we have materials called pumice. So in the US, you'll see a lot of recipes that refer to perlite. Sorry, I'm melting, it's so hot. The next ingredient that we're gonna need for our potting mix is going to be pumice. Pumice is a stone that's found naturally here in the Philippines. A lot of the recipes online call for perlite, which is similar, not quite. Different makeups, obviously. I believe perlite is silica dioxide, if I'm not mistaken. Perlite and pumice are both byproducts of volcanic eruptions. That was the husband. It's okay. He's okay. As I was saying, perlite and pumice are both byproducts of volcanic eruptions. But what we do produce here in mass quantities are pumice, and you will see them being sold along the road. We have a lot of it here in Tarlac as well as Pampanga. I'm sure you have them in places where we have other volcanoes, perhaps, I'm guessing Tagaytay, Batangas area as well. The recipes online call for perlite, which are similar to this size, right? Here we call these pumice mungo. We call the pumice size mungo. And the bigger size, hey baby, do you remember what they call the medium-sized pumice? No, not off the top of your head?
That's corn.
This is corn?
I think so.
And then this is mungo. So there's a difference in size. The mungo size is similar to the size of the pumice, or to the perlite that the online recipes call for. So if you want to go by the online recipes, I would definitely try to acquire mungo-sized pumice. I like to use, for some of my bigger plants like these guys, I would like to use bigger pieces of pumice just because it aerates better. There are lots of pores in it. It helps drain better compared to the smaller guys. Just bigger is better for bigger plants also. Yung mga maliliit, like smaller pieces of product also tend to compact easier, so bigger for me. Finally, I have this plate to discuss. So another few options that are pretty abundant here in the Philippines, which we don't have in the online recipes. We've got coconut coir, which is kind of like a coconut dust. It's a byproduct, again, of coconut cubes, of coconut, what is it? Coconut husks. And it's just a ground down coconut powder or dust. We have, you know what, we'll go with this one first. We have rice hulls. We're a big rice consuming country. Rice is really important to us. And a lot of places actually have processing, small processing plants where people tend to, they make babad or make bilad, right? I think that's the word. Correct me guys if I'm wrong. So they put the rice out in sunlight to dry it up, right? And then they bring it to these processing plants, which actually separate the rice hulls from the rice itself, rice grains. Baby, what are those places called? Help me with the Tagalog names. Oh, he forgot. So if we remember, we're gonna go ahead and flash that name on the bottom. The guy near us that actually processes the rice, that separates the rice hull from the rice grains, he actually gives it away for free because he's got so much. So again, another case or another opportunity to save money and help the environment. You know, reusing, recycling stuff that is found in abundance here in the Philippines. Which brings me to this one as well. This black gray stuff right here, this is actually carbonized rice hull. So it's a nice additive to our little mix. It actually contains a lot of carbon because, again, carbonized. Used in smaller quantities, it can help a lot. everything that I have here so far, actually everything I have here, is the mix that we're going to make is going to be a very low, I want to say it's almost soilless, but the vermicast makes me think twice, just because of where the worms live. But I would say it would probably quantify as a soilless mix. If I'm wrong, I'm going to go ahead and correct myself while editing, but I'll search that up and I'll go ahead and post my results at the bottom. So let's go ahead and get started with our soil mix, okay? Now that all that's been said, we're going to go ahead and start making our soil mix. What I like to do is I like to use coconut cubes a lot. I mean, it helps provide aeration, it provides drainage, it actually soaks up water that's needed. So it really is a win-win, especially if your plants are kept in areas such as this where it's not directly exposed to the elements. There won't be any rain coming here, so you control how much water these guys get, which is excellent. For the purposes of today, I'll go ahead and use this. We'll go ahead and call this 2 parts of coconut cube. And then, like I said earlier, I actually like using bigger pieces for this. But I'll go ahead and mix 1 part of the pumice. You know, it's been asked by friends before if it's okay to be using my hands while we garden, and I'm okay with it. You know, I wash my hands well after each gardening session. I mean, and also I like to feel the texture of my mixes while I'm making them. There's just something, at some point from making so many mixes, you know when it's right. So that's why I like to do that. Of course, wash your hands really well after each of these activities, just because of the vermicast, and of course, you know, you're dealing with rice hull that's been out there. You don't know what's touched it. Hopefully nothing's touched it, because we're in an agricultural area. That would probably be cows or birds. Either way, if there's any additives here from those guys, you know it's going to be good stuff. But yes, definitely wash your hands. So I've got a little bit of the big guys, big pumice here. I'll go ahead and add about 1 part of the small pumice as well. We want, the whole point of this is that we want the mix to be nice and airy, and also contain nutrients, and also actually be well draining. I mean, there's no point to all of this if your mix is going to hold water and kill your plant, right? So this one, let's go ahead and see how well this goes. I am at testing out. Ooh, this I like. Look at this. Very loose, very airy. I really like it a lot. In fact, I'm thinking I might just use a little bit more. Don't judge. Okay, so, man, see, this is the part where I say I should have used the bucket, but then if I used the bucket, you probably would only see my nose and up. So, I'm doing this for you guys. I'm going to struggle through this just for you guys, for a better view of my mouth as I speak. So, have a look at that. They'll be in a pot. There'll be lots of drainage. There'll be nutrients from the vermicast. And aeration. Yes! Which is the goal. So I'm going to use 1 part, consider 1 part of each of these. The carbonized rice hull, the rice hull, and the coconut coir. And now that it's getting rocky, I'm going to go ahead and mix it all up with our shovel. The really nice thing I like about this recipe is that it uses stuff that we have easily available here. I've seen people make their own mixes, and I couldn't be prouder, really, just because they find ways to be inventive and to adapt to what we have. Instead of using coconut cubes, or they do use coconut cubes, but they use coconut cubes like this size, really tiny, really tiny. And then they use things like the vermicast and the mungo pumice, so the really small pumice, and they use leaf litter, which is also something really good for aroids, because a lot of aroids tend to start crawling on the ground until they find that tree to climb up. You know, these epiphytes or semi-epiphytes. So leaf litter works out well also if you don't want to use so much coconut cubes. That would be found, the leaf litter of choice that I've seen in these mixes would tend to be acacia, so acacia leaves. Trying to think of what else. I don't know, I think maybe bamboo might work, huh? Just because of how it doesn't break down easily. But it wouldn't provide, I'm guessing, the same kind of nutrients that carbonized rice hull and vermicast would. So now we've got our mix. It's nice, it's loose, it's airy, it's compact where it needs to be, compact just enough that it could provide support for the plant in case it gets windy. That's a nice thing about pumice. It's not very heavy, but from what I've read and actually from what I've seen, it's actually lighter, or perlite is lighter, so pumice holds a little bit of weight, and it helps stabilize the plant in its new pot. And with that, I am going to end this video and start repotting my Monstera elbow. So if you liked the subject, if you want to learn more, or if you have any comments, please comment below. Like this video, share it, give me a follow. If you want more details, or if you need written details, feel free to check out my website. It's tastefulnodes.com. And if you need just random plant material to look at right before you go to bed, check me out at Instagram. I'm on Instagram as Tasteful Nodes as well. Okay, see you next time. Bye, guys.